Hi there, I want to recommend 20 books every teenager should read before the age of 20. 20 books every teenager should read before the age of 20. And why do I do this? You see, I'm in my 40s, and when I look back at my life, I say if I had read these 20 books as a teenager, my life would be much, much better. It took me 20 years to come to this knowledge, and I want to capsulate it in 20 minutes. So I want you to listen. I have a passion for teenagers, mentoring teenagers into their greatness and into their destiny. So if you have a teenager, you know a teenager, you could share this video with them. So let's get right onto it. The first is books on habit formation. You see, your life is a function of your habits. You will only become great if you have great habits. People who are lazy have lazy habits. People who are driven have driven habits. People who are creative have creative habits. People who are tempered have tempered habits, and so on and so forth. People who are entrepreneurial have entrepreneurial habits. So the first category of books I will recommend are books on habit formation. I want to recommend 5 great books on habit formation to read. First book will be Atomic Habits by James Clear. Great book. And let me say this to you. Listen, if you can't read the entire book, just go on YouTube. There are many summaries. There are short summaries of books. All these amazing books I'm going to recommend in about 5 minutes or less. Some of them are, okay, maybe between 10 and 5 minutes. Beautifully summarized, animated. It's like you're watching a movie. So you can start from there. The big ideas are there. The main lesson is right there. It's encapsulated, beautifully encapsulated in those summaries. So Atomic Habits by James Clear. It will help you to fight procrastination. It will help you to build your willpower. It will help you to be more proactive. The second book I'm going to recommend is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by the late Stephen Covey. Amazing book, all-time bestseller. It will help you to understand people better. It will help you to respond, to be more emotionally intelligent. It will help you to listen, to understand rather than respond. It will help you to have a good paradigm shift. It will help you to start with the end in mind. Start a thing with the end in mind. It will help you to be very visionary. And overall, it's an amazing book. It's a very amazing book. So the third book I'll recommend will be Mini Habits by Stephen Guise. Now that book is a bit similar to Atomic Habits by James Clear, but I like the way he presents some of those things. So it's a book that will give you extra insight into habit formation. Mini Habits by Stephen Guise. The fourth book in that category I will recommend is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. In that book you will learn things like when habits arise, why they arise, how they arise, and with who they arise. And if you answer this question, you see, one of the ways you can start a habit or stop a habit is to ask yourself 4 questions. When do the habits start? Where do the habits start? Why does the habit start? And with who does the habit start? One more time. When does the habit start? Why does the habit start? With who does the habit start? And how does the habit start? If you can answer these 4 questions, you can start and stop habits. You can replace habits and form new habits. And that's what I learned from that great book by Charles Duhigg, Pulitzer Prize winning author. The final book, great book. It shows you the power of compounding in every area of life. It's called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. Great book. Great book on habit formation. And it shows you the power of compounding. Compounding does not just apply to money alone and interest rates and all that. It applies to even relationships, anything you are doing. Even cancer, the way cancer forms in the body is a function of compounding. It's about habits that people have worked on year in, year out, and all of a sudden the cancer just blows up. But it doesn't just blow out. It's the power of compounding. So compounding is a law that applies to every facet of life. Even when you see an earthquake, it's a process of compounding. Climatic forces over the years have compounded that resulted in that earthquake. So compounding and the law of compounding is one of the most important laws that any human being should understand and live by. And you can get a full good understanding of that when you watch or read that book, Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. All right, so those are the top 5 books on habit formation. And in the next video, you would hear of the next category. God bless you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now. Wow, the next category of books that every teenager should read before the age of 20 will be books on wealth. I want to recommend 5 of the best books on wealth in my opinion, because you see, money is very crucial. Poverty can destroy destinies. I have seen poverty destroy the destinies of people. If anybody glorifies poverty, they are making a huge error. You don't glorify wealth, but you don't glorify poverty. Those are the 2 extremes. But every human being should be financially responsible. Every human being. The Bible says that a rich man's wealth is his strong city, and the destruction of the poor is their poverty. The Bible says that money is a defense. Money is a defense. So 5 books on wealth formation, having a good attitude towards money. And if you think that these things are not necessary, just remember that Mike Tyson made $30 million per fight. Mike Tyson made $300 $100 million from boxing and eventually became bankrupt. If you think that these things are not important, just remember that TLC and Tony Braxton, Mary J. Blige sold over 50 million records each and eventually became bankrupt. If you think that these things are not important, remember that a lot of great people have amassed wealth and lost it because they were not financially intelligent. So let's get right into it. 5 books on wealth formation. The first is The Richest Man in Babylon by George Carlson. Yeah, you will learn the power of insurance, safeguarding your assets, the power of savings, the power of compounding from a book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Amazing book. The second book I'll recommend would be The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. That is easily the best book on wealth I have ever read. Psychology of Money. I read it over and over again. I love it. I love to just revisit that book. You will learn about the power of compounding, the power of patience. You will learn about how greed and fear plunges people into poverty. Greed and fear plunges people into poverty. You will learn that money is actually psychology. If you have the right psychology, you will be rich. Part of it is patience, not in a hurry to make money. You will learn secrets from people like Jim Simons, Warren Buffett. The Psychology of Money is a great book. Very great book. My favorite book on wealth ever written. The third book, I love this book so much. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Great book. In that book, let me just quote some of the things from that book. He says that poor people want to get paid for time. Rich people want to get paid for effort. Ask yourself, do I want to get paid just based on the time I spend or based on the effort I give? Rich people, they are effort driven. Poor people are time driven. Okay, I came to work. I work morning to evening, morning to afternoon. I want to get paid. But rich people, effort. That's one of the greatest books I've read. I will put it at number 2 of the greatest books on wealth I have ever read. So many other things. Rich people promote themselves well. Poor people don't promote themselves very well. Please read that book. Like I said, you can find a summary of that book on YouTube for just 7-minute summary of the book on YouTube. Please read that book. Please watch that book, please. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. The third book, or the fourth book rather, will be Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. Great book, man, great book. He interviews the richest men who have ever lived in his generation. People like Ray Dalio, Warren Buffett, the billionaires. And it puts together a great book. And one of the things I learned from that book is the all-weather fund, how to create a diversified portfolio that can withstand any recession. So, and I'll give it to you right here. It's 40% in long-term bonds, 30% in stocks, which takes it to 70%, then 15% in intermediary bonds, which takes it to 85%, then 7.5% in gold and 7.5% in commodities, takes it to 100%. So that's the all-weather fund. That's a great book, yeah. And then the final book will be, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Great book. Like him or hate him, great book. Rich Dad Poor Dad is a great book on wealth. I'll recommend any day, anytime. So those are the top 5 books on wealth. And if you read these 5 books as a teenager, wow, you will thank me for the rest of your life. If you read these 5 books and you implement the wisdom from those books, you will never be poor in your life. If you read those books, you will build an amazing future, save time, save stress. One of the major causes of stress and a life cut short is poverty. Like it or hate it, that's why the poorest nations of the world are the nations that have the shortest life expectancy, and the wealthiest nations of the world have the longest life expectancy. So it's no coincidence. God bless you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now. All right, so 5 books on health every teenager should read before the age of 20. The third category is health, and 5 books I'll recommend. 5 of the best books on health I have ever come across. First one is the best book by far, and it is Mind Over Medicine by Lisa Rankin. Amazing lady. She's given about 4 TED Talks. In that book, she talks about how the mind can heal itself through the placebo effect. She talks about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. She talks about how your body has a stress response, and when it comes on, it begins to reduce your lifespan, and how your body has a self-healing mechanism, and when it comes on, it heals you. Your body heals itself. So that's an amazing book. Lisa Rankin, Mind Over Medicine. The second book is How Not to Die by Daniel Greger. It talks about all the classes of food: proteins, carbohydrates, so the kind of proteins that are healthy, carbohydrates that are healthy, vitamins that are healthy. It talks about the sugars. It talks about the fruits and veggies, the nuts, the grains, the proteins that are healthy. It's a great book. Michael Greger is one of my favorite doctors to listen to. Amazing man. And so I recommend that book, How Not to Die by Daniel Greger. The third book I will recommend is a book by Eric Berg. Eric Berg is one of the most popular doctors on social media. His YouTube channel has well over 10 million followers. So his book on body shape and longevity is an amazing book. And any of his videos, he has several books, but any of his videos will do well for you. The fourth book I would like to recommend recommend is Lifespan by David Sinclair. David Sinclair is professor of longevity at Harvard University. In that book, he talks about the power of fasting and how fasting increases lifespan and how paying attention to your gut health increases lifespan. He talks about other things, like power of healthy yogurts, probiotics, prebiotics and all that, and how the impact of telomeres on lifespan. It's an amazing book. I watch a summary like I always say, so Lifespan by David Sinclair is a great book. So those are the books I'll recommend on health. There are other books, there are other authors. There's Walter Longlow, there is Stephen Gundry, he has great books as well. But those few books are the books I really will recommend, especially Mind Over Medicine by Lisa Rankin. I hope this works well for you. God bless you. Do have an amazing day and bye for now. All right, I want to recommend books on branding that every teenager should read before 20. And you say, Komi, why should teenagers read books on branding? Let me tell you something. Every human being is a brand, and the way you brand yourself will determine the way the world receives you and the value that they put on you. Did you hear what I said? Every human being is a brand, and the way you brand yourself will determine the value that people place on you. So everybody should read the books on branding I'm going to recommend. The first book on branding I'm going to recommend is my favorite book on branding, What Great Brands Do by that amazing lady, Denise Leon. Amazing book. And let me give you one of these powerful nuggets I got from that book. She says, great brands don't chase customers, they appeal to customers. Great brands don't chase customers. Watch every brand that chased a customer, they eventually became irrelevant. Great brands don't chase customers, they appeal to customers. So the second book will be The Branding Gap by Martin Neumeyer. And it says, a brand is not a promise. A brand is a promise kept. Hi! Wow, books are wonderful. He says, a brand is not a promise. A brand is a promise kept. Just read the book. The third book is Contagious by Jonah Berger. Great book. One powerful thing I will never forget from that book is, he says the most powerful form of branding is mouth-to-mouth advertising. When that is, the most powerful form of advertising or marketing is mouth-to-mouth. Not putting billboards up, but when somebody says, I tried this product, it was amazing. I tried this, it worked well for me. That's the best type. That is the best type. All right, so Contagious by Jonah Berger. Two other books will be Hello, My Name is Awesome, but that's a book on capsulating good brand names. Capsulating good brand names. So that's a great book as well. So those are the books I'll recommend on branding. There's another book, 21 Laws of Branding. 21, I think it's Irrefutable Laws on Branding. That's a very good book as well. Very, very good book. So those are the 5 books on branding. And why will I recommend it? Every human being is a brand, and the way you brand yourself will determine the way the world receives you. I hope this works well for you. Do have an amazing day and bye for now. All right, every teenager should read a book on entrepreneurship before the age of 20. Every teenager should. Why? You see, people think that only few people are called to be entrepreneurs, and rightfully so, possibly, why not? But the truth is that word entrepreneur is a French word taken from the word the bearer of risk. An entrepreneur is a risk taker. And let me tell you something, human being will succeed in life without taking risks. So entrepreneurship is not just about starting and owning a business. Entrepreneurship is about taking risks in life. So as a parent, you need to take risks. As a married person, as an employee, you need to take risks. Every human being who will succeed in life must take risks. And that's why every teenager should read books on risk-taking or entrepreneurship. So I want to recommend my top 5. Number 1, hands down, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Greatest book on entrepreneurship I have read. This is a man that has the results, billionaire, mentored 3 people or more who became billionaires. Read 0 to 1. Second book, Good to Great by Jim Collins. Another amazing book. One of the greatest books on entrepreneurship ever written. The third book will be The Blue Ocean Strategy. Every teenager should read that book. The Blue Ocean Strategy. Amazing book. You need to read books like that. And then Josh Kaufman, Your Personal MBA. Great book. Great book. You should read that book as well. And then what final book? I will say Lean Startup by Eric Ries. Lean Startup by Eric Ries will be the final take on that. So those are 5 of the recommended books I'll recommend, but the top 3 especially: 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, A Good to Great by Jim Collins, and Blue Ocean Strategy. Those 3, top 3 should be your top 3. You should watch that. If you do so, you'll find out that you begin to understand the world we live in a better perspective. Your attitude to crisis, obstacles, to many things will change. Many things will change, and I hope this works well for you. God bless you. Do have an amazing day and bye for now. All right, every teenager should read a book on sales, good book on sales before they turn 20, because every human being is a salesman. Every time you want people to do something, or you are trying to persuade people, or you are trying to sell or market yourself, you must apply the principles and techniques of selling. So every human being is a salesman. Every human being is a salesman. I recommend 5 of the best books on sales I have come across. The first one will be The Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday. Great book, amazing book. The second book will be Influence by Robert Cialdini. The third book will also be a book by Robert Cialdini, Persuasion, not Persuasion, Persuasion. Great book. Fourth book on sales will be Hooked by Nia Eyal. Hooked by Nia Eyal. And the fifth book will be Building a Story Brand. Building a Story Brand. Those 5 books are great books, please. You will learn the impact of accessibility on selling yourself, affordability on selling yourself. You will learn the impact of how to talk. You will learn sales techniques like calibrating people, or what you call attunements, attuning yourself. So many techniques in sales. Those books will do you a great deal of benefits, do you great benefits if you read them. Every human being is a salesman, and the better you sell yourself, the better your results in life. God bless you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now. Every teenager should read a book, at least one book on public speaking before they turn 20. I don't care how shy any teenager is, introverted, extroverted, laid back, alpha male, alpha female, whatever. If you are going to succeed in life, you must master communication skills. And part of those communication skills is public speaking. Let me tell you something. Warren Buffett is introverted, shy, same as his business partner Charlie Munger. But guess what? As they grew in life and they began to acquire companies, they understood that they needed public speaking skills. Everybody needs it. Everybody needs public speaking skills. So I want to recommend 5 of the best books on public speaking ever written. You just need to know how to command a room, how to speak and be convincing and persuade yourself. So 5 of the best books I will recommend will be Speaking Up Without Freaking Out by Matt Abrahams. Then every book that David J.P. Phillips has written, every book he has written. He's the best public speaking expert I have ever encountered, I've ever listened to. Then every book that Alex Leon has written, he's also one of the best public speaking experts. Then Talk Like Ted by Carmen Gallio. He profiles people like Barack Obama, great public speakers, Martin Luther King. So that book, Talk Like Ted, is another great book. So those are the 4 books I'll recommend. 4 good books I'll recommend on public speaking. Talk Like Ted by Carmen Gallio, Speaking Up Without Freaking Out by Matt Abrahams, the great books by Alex Leon, and every book that David J.P. Phillips has written. Every book he has written, every book. He's downright the best public speaking expert I have ever heard. I hope this works well for you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now. One of the most essential skills any human being needs is ability to communicate effectively. And every teenager, in my opinion, should read at least one classic book on communication before they turn 20. At least one classic book on communication before they turn 20. One classic book. And I want to recommend 5 of the best books on communication I have ever read. 5 of the best. Number 1, Getting Along by Amy Gallo. Amy Gallo works with the Harvard Business Review. She's clearly one of the most brilliant people I have ever listened to when it comes to how to communicate with people, especially difficult people. One of the best, Amy Gallo. So Getting Along by Amy Gallo. Second book will be Exactly What to Say by Phil Jones. Wow, that's an amazing book. Amazing book. The third book will be Never Split the Difference. It's a book on negotiation, but negotiation is actually communication, and every human being has to negotiate. In life, you don't get what you want, you get what you negotiate for. So you must read that book. You must read that book and read that book. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Chris Voss worked with the FBI for over 20 years. He was their lead hosted negotiator. And when you read the book, you see why he's a master in negotiation. So that's the third book. And then 2 other books I will recommend on communication. Crucial Conversations is a great book on conversation. Please read Crucial Conversations. And then How to Talk to Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere by Larry King. Actually, this is it. I read this book over 10 years ago, but I still go back to it from time to time. So it's a great book by Larry King. How to Talk to Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere. So those 5 books I recommend on communication. They will do you a whole world of good. God bless you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now. One of the most intelligent billionaires I've ever profiled said this statement I will never forget. He says, I can lose money, but I can never lose relationships, because relationships are more important than money. I can lose money, but I can't lose relationships, because relationships are more important than money. So I want to recommend every teenager should read a classic book on relationship before they turn 20. And when I mean relationship, I don't just mean romantic relationship. I mean how to relate with people, you know. I'm not talking about communication, about relationships, you know. So I want to recommend 5 of the best books on relationship I have ever read. The first book will be How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I mean, that book is over 100 years old. Classic book, any day, anytime, you know. And the most powerful thing he said in that book, in my own opinion, is that if you want to win friends and influence people, you must have a genuine interest in people. And it never fails. And there's nobody I had a genuine interest in that I spoke to and did not appreciate it. that I had a genuine interest in them. It's a classic book. The second book I will recommend will be 7 Secrets That Make Marriages Work by John Gottman. John Gottman is one of the best, if not the best, relationship author in the world. Yeah, that book is a book on marriage, but even beyond marriage, you learn a lot of secrets in that book. Let me share one with you. He says one of the ways you will know that a man loves his wife is that he believes in the dreams and visions of his wife. He believes in the dreams and visions of his wife. That's one of the ways you know that a man really, really loves his wife. So it's a great book on relationship. That's the second book on relationships that I would recommend. Then also I'll recommend any book on relationship by Keith Ferrazzi. Keith Ferrazzi is one of the finest authors on relationships and building relationships with people. One of the finest, hands down. And so I'll recommend that any books on relationship by Keith Ferrazzi. How to Talk to Anyone by Leo Lewandis. Okay, so those 4 books are books I'll recommend on relationships and relating with people. I hope that works for you. God bless you. Do have an amazing day and bye for now. Hi, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so I always recommend that every teenager reads at least one classic book on leadership before they turn 20. One classic book on leadership. I'm going to recommend 5 of those books now. Now, the first book will be 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. That's, in my opinion, the most important or one of the most important books on leadership that John Maxwell has ever written, especially because a lot of people don't understand what real leadership is. And so he chronicles the 5 levels of leadership, and you get to a point where as a leader you are focused on building other leaders, and as a leader you don't have to say anything. Your results, your genuinity speaks well for you, so I love that book, 5 Levels of Leadership. The second book on leadership will be, of course, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. It's a great book whether we like it or not. Still an all-time great book. And then probably one of my favorite books on leadership, Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. Great book, great book. So I'll recommend that book on leadership. And then the other book I'll recommend will be Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. It just shows you that leaders take responsibility. Leaders don't pass the buck stops with every leader. So I would put that book in my top 5 books on leadership by Jocko Willink, who was a former US Navy SEAL. And the final book on leadership, I would say Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, because I believe that leadership starts with self-leadership. Leadership starts with self-leadership. And so I will put Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins in that category, in that bracket. All right, so those are my top 5 books on leadership that I will recommend to anyone. You will learn character and leadership, patience, teamwork and leadership, and so much. I hope this works well for you, teenagers. God bless you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now. Every great dream is only as good as the team that it has. The better the team, the better the dream, because you cannot do it alone. And so I want to recommend 5 of the best books on team building I have ever read. Every teenager should read a great book on team building before they turn 20. Every teenager should read one great book on team building. And I want to recommend 5 of the best books on team building I have ever read. The first one will be 5 Dysfunctions of Team by Patrick Lencioni. He is the godfather of team building anyway, and everybody knows Patrick Lencioni when it comes to team building, so read that book. The second book will be 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. The reason why I will add that book is because it shows you different types of people. So the more you understand people, the more you understand how to assemble a team of people together, because it really takes a lot of self-understanding. So I will add that book, The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. Then Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore is another great book I will add. Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore. And then I can never leave out this book by Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point. I'm going to add The Tipping Point because it just shows you different types of people. So books that show us different types of people and the way people think and how you can bring people together to accomplish a given vision. I'll put those 4 books once again in my top 4 books on team building. Once again, 5 Dysfunctions of Team by Patrick Lencioni, Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore, The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin, The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin, and then Tipping Point by Malcolm, one of my favorite authors, Malcolm Gladwell. I hope this works for you. God bless you, and I hope that with this you build a great team to fulfill your great dream in Jesus' name. God bless you. Bye for now. All right, the quality of your thoughts determine the quality of your life. You see, millionaires think like millionaires, billionaires think like billionaires, average leaders think like average leaders, great leaders think like great leaders. Disciplined people think like disciplined people, and indisciplined people think like indisciplined people. So I want to recommend 5 of the best books on critical thinking I have ever read. 5 of the best books on critical thinking. Every teenager should read at least one great book. I don't mean one book, sorry. I mean every teenager should read at least one great book on critical thinking before they turn 20. I want to recommend 5 of them. The first one will be Predictably Irrational by Daniel Ariely. He's professor of behavioral psychology at Duke University. That book is a great book. He's given over 5 TED Talks, if I remember right. And always impressed when I watch him think and speak. The second book will be no other than Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow by Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman. He's also a professor at Princeton University. I think he used to be at London Business School and Columbia University, but amazing book on critical thinking. The third book will be the best book on critical thinking I have ever read. It is The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli. Rolf Dobelli, in my opinion, is the best critical thinker or author of critical thinking I have ever encountered. So those 3 books. Then I will also add books like Great Mental Models by Shane Parrish. Great Mental Models by Shane Parrish is one of the best books on thinking I have ever encountered. I recommend it for anybody and everybody. And I will also say Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke. I recommend Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke. It's a great book. It's a very great book. Very great book on critical thinking. Please don't forget, the quality of your thoughts determine the quality of your life. A trapped person is first of all trapped in their thoughts. A person who is great is first of all great in their thoughts. And so critical thinking is very crucial, and I recommend those books on critical thinking. God bless you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now. You see, most learning institutions like primary schools, secondary schools, universities don't teach us the most important skill, and they don't teach us how to learn. So after learning, we still don't know how to learn. So the best thing to do first in learning is first of all to learn how to learn. And so I want to recommend 5 of the best books on learning I have ever read. Now, I think every human being should essentially first learn how to learn. And so every teenager should read these books I'm about to recommend. Every teenager. And don't even wait until you are a teenager. If you are listening to this and you are younger than any teenager, you are not yet a teenager, start by going to these books. You can watch them on YouTube as YouTube summaries. So the first book I will recommend is The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. That's a great book. Great book. This is a man that was former chess champion. He applied the same learning, became a kung fu champion, martial arts champion. So he has the results, and the book is an amazing book, just downright an amazing book. So The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. The second book will be The First 20 Hours by Josh Kaufman. You see, this book is so great because I applied the principles in this book in building my knowledge of neuroscience. And what did he say? He says that to be decent at any skill, whether catering, any skill, you need 20 hours. And he says 20 hours is 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening for the next 30 days. Which means that in 30 days, you can build skill in anything at a decent level. Whether you want to learn how to be a proofreader, you want to learn coding, you want to learn events management, you want to learn interior decor. But I mean, there's somebody left Google to run his own pizza making business. He said he learned how to make pizza on YouTube, and today runs a very good pizza eatery. But I like the way he broke it down. 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening for the next 30 days gives you 20 hours. And in 20 hours, you can learn a skill. The second thing he said about that book that I like is that he says that if you learn a thing shortly after you wake up and you learn a thing shortly after you go to bed, it gives you greater chances of understanding it and consolidating your knowledge. Why? He says because when you wake up in the morning, your brain is very fresh. Then when you read before you go to sleep, when you go to sleep, your brain begins to, absorb and, just consolidate that knowledge. So it's a great book. First 20 Hours by Josh Kaufman is a great book. The third book I will recommend on learning will be The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle. He talks about how some people learned a new language just by going to a new nation. Not knowing the language, but just saying, okay, we are going to just go to this nation. I think it was one of the Asian countries, and they just went to, and I like the book. Daniel Coyle's book on The Talent Code shows you how to learn or build talents. It's a great book on learning. Great book on learning. The other book on learning I would recommend would be Limitless by Jim Quick. Limitless by Jim Quick. I like the fact that he teaches a lot of good and bad habits in reading, and Jim Quick himself is a memory champion, has worked with some of the biggest billionaires in the world. So a good book. Then Make It Stick by Chip and Dan Heath is another good book. So you learn things like spacing, interleaving, so those are the top 5 books on learning I would recommend to anyone, any day, anytime, anywhere. I hope it works well for you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now. Yeah, I want to talk about how to think like a genius. And if you learn this principle, it would make you a genius for life, and a notable one. It's a method that was adopted by the greatest geniuses: Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, and so on and so forth. And so this is it. Whenever you want to think about a thing, think about how every other thing in life relates to that thing. And I'll show you how I practice this principle. So when I wanted to learn about neuroscience, this was the model I adopted. How does does everything in life apply to neuroscience? So I started with temperature. How does heat affect the brain? How does cold affect the brain? Then I went to different seasons of life. I studied the child brain, I studied the teenage brain, I studied the woman's brain, I studied the male brain, I studied the brain of adults, I studied the brain of athletes, then I studied the brains of criminals, I studied the brains of entrepreneurs. I studied so many categories of how these things affect the brain. Then I studied how fear affects the brain, how sex affects the brain, how anger affects the brain, how excitement affects the brain. I studied all this and all the different emotions. I studied how bitterness affects the brain, how hatred affects the brain, how pain affects the brain, you know. So it's about studying how everything relates to your one thing. That's what makes a genius in any field. Understanding how everything connects to that one thing. One more time, the way to build the thought pattern of a genius is to find out how everything in life affects that one thing. So a genius will go on and find out, how do proteins affect the brain, carbohydrates affect the brain, how does fruits and veggies affect the brain, how does oil affect the brain, you know, things like that. How does geography affect the brain? Yes. How does comedy affect the brain? How do horror movies affect the brain? How do cartoons affect the brain? And so a genius will try to find out, how does color affect the brain? How does the color red affect the brain? Green, white, yellow, blue, black, and all that affect the brain. He will find out how money affects the brain. How does fame affect the brain? How do things affect the brain? And that's how a genius thinks. That's how a genius thinks. I said on many occasions that the greatest comedic genius was Mrs. Doubtfire. Richard Williams. Call him Mrs. Doubtfire because of that iconic movie about Richard Williams, who committed suicide, sadly enough. But the beauty of him was that he was able to say, okay, I'm going to learn 40 different accents. So he could speak with the accent of a Nigerian and in a second switch to the accent of an Indian. And you will not even tell that he switched because he was so good, he was so flawless at it. So you want to ask, okay, how does jazz music, for me, I wanted to know, how does jazz music affect the brain? How does Fuji music affect the brain? How does hip hop, fast, how does punk rock, how does alternative, how does hard rock, metal affect the brain? How does R&B affect the brain? You understand? I found out that, okay, when you are doing things with your hand, do they have a different impact on the brain compared to when you are doing things with your feet? That's how a genius thinks. They try to look for how everything affects the brain. In fact, they go deeper. Does yellow light have a different impact on the brain than blue light, than purple light, than green light? That's how a genius thinks. I wanted to find out, do sleeping positions affect the brain? So if I sleep on my back, does it have a different impact on my brain compared to if I sleep on my side? That's how a genius thinks. I want to find out, okay, if I kneel down, does it have a different impact on my brain compared to when I sit down, when I stand up? Does walking have a different impact on my brain than jogging? Does jogging have a different impact on my brain than cardio workouts or high intensity interval trainings or resistance training? That's how a genius thinks. You want to think about how everything has an impact on the brain because you are a specialist or an expert on the brain. So you want to think about how everything impacts the brain. So I would say, okay, does reading have a different impact on my brain than watching? So if I'm watching a documentary, does it have a different impact compared to if I was reading the same thing about the same person? That's how a genius thinks. So I wanted to know, if I am analyzing, does it have a different impact on my brain than if I'm reasoning? Does it have a different impact on my brain than if I'm reflecting? Does it have a different impact on my brain if I'm consolidating memory, I'm trying to remember a thing or trying to form a memory? Does wishful thinking have a different impact on my brain than analytical thinking? You know, that's how a genius thinks. They think about how everything relates to that one thing. I hope you understand how to think like a genius. I hope it works well for you. I look forward to hearing your testimonies. God bless you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now. Hi there. I want to talk about how to reprogram the subconscious. But first of all, before we talk about reprogramming, let's talk about programming. Programming before reprogramming. Now, when is the subconscious programmed? It is programmed in childhood, but can be reprogrammed at any other time later after that. I'll take it again. It is programmed in childhood, but can be reprogrammed at any other time after that. Now, let's talk about the programming. I say it's programmed in childhood. Now, what do I mean? You see, when a woman is pregnant, everything she starts doing during her pregnancy begins to have an impact on the child, not only physiologically, but even mentally. So her diet, the kind of emotions that she feels, the things that she goes through. So the subconscious of a child begins to form in the womb. And that's why the way people behave is a function of what they went through in childhood. And when I mean in childhood, everything that starts from when the child was conceived in the womb of the mother. right from the first trimester of pregnancy. That's when things start to form. So I want to talk about a few things. First of all, there's a man called Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley was one of the most famed occultists of his time. He was also called the most wicked man in the world. He also had the nickname of the Beast. And I want to tell you his story. This was a man that was said to be so evil and wicked, but let's look at his story. Aleister Crowley was the son of a preacher. His father was actually a preacher, a clergyman. But what happened? His father died at a young age and he became very bitter. He was actually born Alexander Crowley. It was afterwards, he changed his name from Alexander to Aleister Crowley. But what happened to him? Because of that bitterness, he became very sad and began to harbor a lot of evil thoughts and began to specialize or began to have an obsession with the mastery and understanding of evil and forming of cults and all that. He wrote books, he was a poet, but everything about him spoke of evil. Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley was so evil that even the houses that he lived in, after he moved out of those houses, people that got into those houses either had to sell the houses or move out of the houses or died in those houses. That's how famed for evil he was. Some of the cults that he created are the most evil cults till date. But guess what? It was the bitterness of his childhood that metamorphosed into his mastery of evil. I'll give you another example. Chris Brown is a musician that needs no introduction. He was famed for assaulting his then girlfriend Rihanna. But guess what? Chris Brown in childhood saw his father beat his mother, physically assault his mother. As a child, he saw physical abuse. But let's talk about Hitler. Hitler was one of the most evil men who ever lived. As a child, Hitler's father was very ruthless on him. Very ruthless on him. In fact, when Hitler's father would beat Adolf Hitler, the mother would have to throw her body in between just to reduce the torture meted out to that guy. Can you see that? Our subconscious mind, which makes up 95% of who we are, our choices, our preferences, our habits, our likes, our dislikes, is formed in childhood. For Hitler, it was formed in childhood. For Aleister Crowley, it was formed in childhood. Let's look at R. Kelly. R. Kelly is somebody who has a notoriety for treating women poorly, sexual abuse, holding women captive against their will. He's serving what is almost a life sentence now. But guess what? R. Kelly suffered abuse, sexual abuse as a child. Can't we see that the subconscious is formed in childhood? But the beauty of the subconscious is that it can be reprogrammed in adulthood. So having a subconscious is not a death sentence. A qualified subconscious is not a death sentence. You can reprogram it. But I just wanted to talk about how subconscious is programmed. The final example I want to give is the example of Laszlo Polgar, that great parent who raised 3 children, Sofia Polgar, Susan Polgar, and Judith Polgar, to become chess grandmasters. Right from when they were young, he started to train them to become chess grandmasters. Even the artwork on the house spoke of chess. Everything around them spoke of chess. And then he said, my 3 children will become chess grandmasters. And as he said it, it happened. Why? Because he programmed them from childhood to become chess grandmasters. That is how the subconscious is programmed. In the next video, I will talk about how the subconscious can be reprogrammed. God bless you. Bye for now. Hi there. So I want to talk about how we can reprogram the subconscious. Previously, I spoke about the programming of the conscious. Now I'm speaking on the reprogramming of the subconscious. There are 2 ways you can reprogram your subconscious, and one of the ways is with intense experiences. The other is through repetition. But the first, I want to start with reprogramming the subconscious through what? Intense experiences. And I'll share some examples with you. There are people who have encountered people intensely and their subconscious has been reprogrammed. I'll share a positive example and a not so positive example. First, you see, I know a lady who was very gentle and in a split second she became very wild. What happened? She was impacted with an intense experience. So this lady and I, we went to the same university. Her father was a drug baron and a ritualist. As part of his ritual exercise, he had to sleep with his daughter. So he eventually raped his daughter. The moment she was raped by her father, she became very wild in her dressing, everything. And she was not raped as a child, she was raped as an adult. She was an adult when she was raped. So she was reprogrammed in adulthood. She was gentle and peaceful in childhood, but she became wild in adulthood. Why? Because of an intense experience. Now, intense experiences can shape people. I'll give you an example. Malcolm X was very irresponsible. Pimp, a drug peddler. He went to jail, encountered the Nation of Islam, and came out a reformed man. He went in not as a child, he went in as an adult. as an adult. So intense experiences can reprogram people or reprogram the subconscious. So that's Malcolm X. The same thing happened to Don King. These people were reprogrammed in adulthood. I'll share an example with you. I had an acquaintance growing up, and this lady was very well. Notice she wasn't peaceful like the other lady, very well. Then she lost her elder brother. And when she lost her elder brother, she became very sober. She gave her life to Christ. She became born again Christian, and she became very sober. It was one intense experience that made a difference. Just one intense experience that made a difference. So one of the ways you can reprogram your subconscious is to reach out for intense experiences. One of the ways is that you can go to places. It could be gatherings, it could be seminars, it could be conventions, it could be camps, it could be programs, any program where people of like minds are coming together. It's going to be an intense program, and then you turn a new leaf. So that's how people go and connect with intense experiences. People have an encounter with an intense experience, and their subconscious are reprogrammed. I want to share the positive example with you. I have a friend. She had 4 miscarriages after getting married. So she had the first conception, miscarriage, and then the next 3. Now, and she didn't have any children. So imagine getting married and you have 4 miscarriages and yet you don't have any children. It began to play with her subconscious that, will I ever have my own children? Will I ever have my own children? But guess what? Today she's a mother of 2 children. What happened? She went for a miracle service, a Christian miracle program. And then a pastor, Pastor Adeboye, said while preaching that the Lord said there's somebody here. The Lord said I should say to you, no more miscarriages. She received that word, and today she's a mother of 2 beautiful children. She's my friend. I know her. I know the children. So an intense experience can reprogram your subconscious. I know a man who wanted to be a lawyer, and then when a great journalist died and he saw the impact that he had on society, he changed his mind and said, I don't want to become a lawyer anymore. I want to become a journalist. And today he's one of the most notable journalists in the country I live in, Nigeria. Intense experiences can reprogram your subconscious, which leads me to my next point. You can create your own intense experiences. You can create your own intense experiences, and I will give you examples. For example, Bishop David Oyedepo is the wealthiest, or one of the wealthiest pastors in Nigeria today. He grew up being poor. He created his own intense experience. When did it happen? He went on a 3-day retreat and fasted during that retreat. In the 3-day retreat, he was studying and looking for the secret to prosperity, reading books, reading the Bible, praying, fasting. He said on the 3rd day, he got his eureka moment, and he knew that as from that point on, he will never be poor. You can create your own intense moment. One of the ways you can reprogram your subconscious is to go on a retreat. It could be 3 days, 1 week, but going on a retreat. Retreats are powerful enough to reprogram the subconscious. I'll give you the example of another pastor, clergyman in the country I live in, Nigeria. His name is Amos Fenwa. The same thing. He was pastoring in poverty, and he got sick and tired of his situation and said, you know what, I need a change. And he went on a 3-day retreat. In the retreat, he had a dream where in the dream, God was telling him what to do, who to go and meet. And then he applied those things that he saw in the dream. And what happened? Period. His fortunes changed. And today, he's one of the most successful pastors in the country I live in. So you can reprogram your subconscious with retreats. Retreats are powerful enough to reprogram the subconscious. The second thing is that you can encounter great people that can reprogram your subconscious. For example, you may never see yourself as doing great things until you encounter great people that show you that, man, you can do it. This can be done. How many black ladies today are playing tennis because they saw and watched people like Venus and Serena Williams? Before Venus and Serena Williams, how many blacks did we have? How many black ladies did we have playing tennis? The last one was Althea Gibson in her 70s. That was in the 70s. Encountering people can alter your subconscious. Going for programs, impactful programs, can alter your subconscious. And I'll give you examples. T.L. Osborne was one of the greatest evangelists of his time. He got that encounter that should program his subconscious at a William Branham crusade. That was when he encountered that. So go for programs, very impactful programs. Ask yourself, what are the top 5 conventions in the world in the area where I want to be reprogrammed? It might be a convention of engineers. It could be a convention of artists and artisans. It could be a gathering of life coaches. It could be anything. Impactful programs. It could be even the World Economic Forum. It could be a motor show. Just look for whatever appeals to your own area of profession or your desires. They are powerful enough to reprogram the subconscious of people. Impactful experiences can reprogram the subconscious of a person. Let me tell you something. I have seen football players do brilliantly well, and then one injury turns their whole trajectory of their life around. Just one injury. For some, you can't even point it down to an injury. It's just an impactful experience that changes their fortune, and they just drop in form. I mean, James Rodriguez. You want me to mention names? I'll mention names. Philippe Coutinho. I'll mention names. So many great players that held a lot of promise. Eden Hazard. After a while, just a drastic drop in form. Chris Sutton. So many great players. But the same thing in other industries. You see people that they encounter people. Guess what? I know people who have gotten married to people and just a total reversal of fortune. Once they got married, that was it. They just lost everything. For some of them for good, for some of them for not so good. So encountering people can change a lot of things. Guess what? I know millionaires who say their lives will turn around when they encounter encountered billionaires. Steve Harvey encountering Robert Smith, said the same thing happened. John Terry, millionaire, encountering Roman Abramovich, billionaire, the same thing happened. So you can create your own intense experiences. You can create your own intense experiences. I hope this works well for you. Do have an amazing day. Bye for now. If there is any lesson I have learned by studying over 500 great organizations, corporate organizations in the world, it is that never run away from a crisis. Never let a crisis go to waste. I want to show this by profiling the story of Volkswagen. I want to show you how crises are amazing and wonderful opportunities for people who have the right mindset. By profiling Volkswagen, one of the biggest car manufacturers in the world. Volkswagen, as I speak today, they own car brands such as Audi, Seats, Skoda, Bentley, Bugatti, Porsche, Lamborghini, and so on and so forth, other brands as well. In fact, I think they're in a partnership with Rivian, one of the new EV manufacturers, and it's a company that sells up to 10 million cars every year. It's a company that is one of the major pillars of the German economy, which is one of the best economies in Europe and the world. So let's look at this. Now, Volkswagen built themselves to becoming an institution by understanding and taking advantage of crisis. Let's start with what happened in 1964. In 1964, shortly after World War II, Volkswagen acquired Audi. Audi was part of a German car manufacturer called Otto Union. But what happened? They were financially struggling. That is, Audi was in financial struggles at that time. And then Volkswagen saw that as an opportunity to acquire Audi, and they acquired Audi. It gave them leverage, ability to have new models and expand, economies of scale and all that. But they didn't stop there. In 1986, Volkswagen acquired the Spanish auto car maker Seat. Due to the same circumstances, they waited for moments of crisis to acquire other car brands. So they strategically positioned themselves for moments of crisis. They knew that during moments of crisis, our competitors will have difficult times, and that's a good time for us to acquire them. So they waited, they looked forward to times of crisis. So that was the second acquisition. Then, in the late 80s, after the collapse of communism, Czechoslovakia had a nationally owned company called Skoda, and they were transiting from a nationalist economy to a market-driven economy. And after the collapse of communism, another crisis, Skoda was up for sale. Guess what Volkswagen did? They acquired Skoda. Simple. And then guess what? A few years after that, Lamborghini lost its owner, Federico Lamborghini. He passed away. And guess what? The company started having financial struggles too, ability to, cope with the market, and it was just challenging. And guess what Volkswagen did? They acquired Lamborghini. But guess what? They didn't stop there. They did not only acquire Lamborghini, they also, in the same vein, acquired Bentley and Bugatti. And as if that was not enough, during the 2008 economic crash, Volkswagen acquired what? Porsche. So they understood this principle. And guess if you understand this principle, you will be very disciplined and wait for times of crisis, because you know that in times of crisis, competitors will crumble and then you can cash in on that. I hope you learned from this lesson that great minds never run away from a crisis. In fact, they look forward to crisis because they know that in times of crisis is an opportunity to expand, because complacent companies will crumble and the frugal ones will flourish. I hope this works well for you. Do have an amazing day, and bye for now.